This generation, Raven Software's releases have failed to rise above average. Despite creating some entertaining experiences, nothing they've done has really turned out to be all that memorable, something they're looking to change with Singularity. After a delay moved the game into a less competitive season, Raven's FPS has a perfect opportunity to stand out, something they've had trouble accomplishing in the past.
I'm gonna open the door! I'll take left, you take right! Ready? 1, 2, 3! Open fire!
The story is set on Katorga 12, a mysterious island off the coast of Russia where a catastrophic singularity occurred during the 1950s. Players assume the role of Captain Nathaniel Renko, a US Black Ops soldier who's sent to the island to investigate strange radiation patterns. Upon arrival, Renko finds that Katorga was the site of a large scientific compound built around E99, an element only found on the island. E99 has nearly limitless power, capable of even changing the flow of time itself. Renko finds this out firsthand when he begins being whipped around time, unintentionally changing history. It's a great setup for a story, but sadly it ends up falling drastically short. By the end, it's a mishmash of good and bad concepts, feeling like several different ideas woven together with plot holes. In order to right the wrongs of time, Captain Renko needs to battle Russian soldiers, E99 corrupted wildlife, and the irradiated former workers from the Katorga base. Besides having several upgradable weapons, the main tool at his disposal is the Time Manipulation Device, or TMD. By using the TMD, Renko can move objects backwards or forwards in time, create a time-frozen sphere, pick up and throw items, or even pull objects from the past into the present. It's used for both puzzle solving and combat, allowing the player to get a leg up on the hordes of enemies he faces. By the end, though, the puzzles become fairly repetitive, and the same few mechanics are overused to the point where they lose all novelty. Luckily, the combat is strong enough to carry the gameplay, and the different abilities lead to some varied encounters. Though it wasn't really promoted much leading up to the release, Singularity features a multiplayer option that actually includes some interesting, unique elements. The two game types are fairly standard, with one being traditional team deathmatch and the other playing out as attack and defend. Where it separates itself from other games is in the teams, which has one group of players controlling Russian soldiers, while the other half plays as mutated monsters. It's a bit like Left 4 Dead, save for the fact that the creatures actually end up being a bit more varied than they were in Valve's shooter, capable of using all of the abilities they had during the single player online. While it's not likely enough to keep players interested for way too long, it's a pleasant surprise, and definitely adds to the value of the game.
E99 is a rare element that can only be found deep underground here on Katorga 12.
Players will likely find Katorga 12 much more familiar than they expected when they set foot on the Russian island. The environments, mood, and style all ring reminiscent of BioShock, right down to the ghostly visages and recorded messages. In some ways, it's actually done better, since the random encounters with specters and Rapture was never really explained all that well. In other ways, it finds itself coming up short, lacking memorable set pieces and looking a bit uninspired at times. That said, Singularity does feature some flavor of its own, mostly stemming from the game's time manipulation elements. Aging or reverting objects has a fantastic effect, even if it does look more like repairing or destroying than actually spinning the hands of a clock. And the visuals, on the whole, are impressive. On several occasions, the instability of the E99 will cause the world around the player to age, a thrilling effect every time. In other instances, Renko will need to travel back in time through rifts, encountering the desolate, destroyed areas of the future in their pristine past conditions. These segments of the game end up being some of the most memorable, thanks mostly to the way they're presented. While it has the capability of looking pretty good, it spends much of its time getting there. Singularity bears many of the scars of early Unreal 3 titles, like texture pop-ins, despite being released well after these issues have been addressed. It also has its fair share of bugs and glitches, which can prove to be either humorous or sometimes frustrating. Singularity likely wasn't worth the wait for those who have been following it over the years. Despite numerous delays, the final product still has a number of large issues which, when mixed in with questionable design choices and a lack of originality, leads to an utterly forgettable experience. Still, though it may not have lived up to those expectations, it's worth checking out for those looking for an average shooter, but going in and expecting something bigger is likely a mistake. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the full text review on Gamervision.com.